Good evening, everybody. Back again on a Friday evening, 5:30 p.m. Kuala Lumpur time. And you're with me on the Sheila Exchange. Now, ever since the pandemic hit us and we've practically lived all of our lives online, the one question that we maybe have not asked is, are we secure? All right, all that activity that we do in cyberspace, is it secure? Last year, we all had a big scare when there was a scare with Zoom, and everyone migrated to other platforms. And then when they were confident that Zoom was okay, everything had been fixed, we all went back onto Zoom. Some people still refuse to go onto Zoom because, they're very disbelieving. So do we or don't we? Should we do online transactions or should we not? Should we post send data, sensitive data online or not? What if someone hacks it and gets into it and steals all our money from our bank account? What do we do? Is this even relevant today when everything is being done online? To answer those questions, I have with me an award-winning cybersecurity advocate with over almost 33 decades in the field of information technology. And he's got 2 decades in the cybersecurity domain. So he got into cybersecurity before it got fashionable and sexy. Okay, so and in his previous role, he worked with the United Nations, and he was assisting governments globally in enhancing their cybersecurity posture through various initiatives and projects. So he's worked extensively with governments, with corporations, and he's been a regular speaker at numerous international conferences, forums, and seminars, and also published articles. So if you want to know about cybersecurity, this is the man, and we're very fortunate to have been able to get him here today with us to talk to us about us individuals, how we can be secure. Thank you, Philip, for agreeing to be with us today on the Sheila Exchange.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me here today.
Yeah, I think this is a topic that really needs to be discussed now because, we've heard people who gone and they gave 50,000 to some scam here, or somebody's, accounts got hacked into. And then there are all these crisis management training programs that we need to do in case people's data is compromised and so on. But before we go into all of that, Philip, could you tell us about your background and why you chose to specialize in cybersecurity long before it became fashionable?
Okay, so interestingly, IT was my favorite thing, back then. I started back in 1985, actually. When my dad got me my first computer, I got excited. I was in school, everybody was like, nobody had computers at that time. So if you had one, you were like the guy. So yeah, exactly. So then because I was so excited about computers, when I applied for university, I only put one choice there. I said, I want to do computer science, and that's it. And of course, security was not even a talk back then, So I did my computer science degree and I graduated and I started working. Then in the mid-90s, I joined a telco, one of the local telcos here. And it was still very new. The telco, those days the telcos were all just starting up their mobile sections and all this. And I was in the back end, I was an engineer back then. And then in 1997, this telco got hit by a virus. And it actually penetrated all their servers throughout the country. And we were like, oh my God, what is this happening? Because it's the first time, such at a big scale. So from then, and I started working on that project, I was like, never seen a virus before. And this is the first time, and I got excited about it. So I started working with the project team on eradicating the virus. And
so you were like that time's version of the frontliner, that type of virus.
Yeah. It was fascinating because you've never seen it before. Nobody was talking even about it. And suddenly this telco here gets hit by that virus. So after that, I got excited about cybersecurity from there in 1997, and that's when my whole career in security started. And then when I left the telco, I was working in cybersecurity line. And then I joined the National Cybersecurity Agency in Malaysia, Cybersecurity Malaysia. And we started, I got involved in a lot of security projects there. And as more and more I got into it, I got very excited, because the one thing nice about cybersecurity is that it is a dynamic field. It is a very, very dynamic field, and it constantly changing. So you don't get bored. It's not a boring field, It's not something static that you do not every day the same thing. It's always new. Something new is coming up. Something new is happening. Thanks to the hackers, though, and the criminals, we have exciting life. You don't get to sleep much. I remember in the telco, when we were hit by this virus, I actually didn't go back home for 3 days. I just went out to have my bath and come back. I practically lived in that office there, because we were trying to solve this problem, because we've never seen it. And believe it or not, at that time the telco was in the process of evaluating an antivirus that was going to be used, So because it was not a concern at that time, so everybody was taking their time to do it, Yeah, so it's all those excitements that got me into it. To me, it's fun and exciting, I mean, if not, I wouldn't have been doing this for over 20 years now. And and every time I'm learning something new. Every time I it's something new that is coming up, and it keeps me going. It's never boring. But again, it's a very challenging field. It's a very challenging field, because as much as the hackers are always many steps ahead of us, we have to also keep up with their pace. So yeah, so it's basically the fact that it's so dynamic, it's fun, it's exciting. So yeah, that's why I got into it. So I've been doing it ever since until today.
Yeah, so like you're like the kind of like the Superman of the cyber world. You're just running from one corner of the globe to the other to sort out things. Yeah, I can imagine you're always growing, right? It's never a stagnant job.
The interesting thing is that in my career, like you mentioned this now, that I was working with the UN agency. We in my previous organization I was with, we were the cybersecurity arm for the International Telecommunication Union, the ITU. The ITU is the oldest UN agency, and they are in charge of telecommunication, and they were given the mandate to be in charge of cybersecurity. So our organizations was chosen to become the cybersecurity arm for them. And because of that, that 6 years I was doing work with them, I traveled the whole globe, and I had the opportunity of working with people like the Interpol. I've actually been to Interpol in Lyon, in France. Yeah, I got it. It's so nice. I mean, I went to the US. I actually had meetings with the US State Department. We met with Homeland Security, the US Secret Service. I can go on and tell you more about it, but it's that kind of excitement you have, that you actually watch them in the movies, and then there you are in the office, So
hey, your life sounds like a Netflix movie, lah.
Yeah, I mean, we walk into Interpol and see their command center where they, actually monitor. So believe me, everything you see on TV, it's real, So it's nice to see, and work with them. You actually get to work with them I work with them on many investigation cases. I work with some of the best IT security firms in the world, from Microsoft to Trend Micro to Kaspersky, all these big firms. We have worked with them on investigation. So, I mean, how much more excitement do you want?
So I'm sure they've got a nice a profile of you, a file of you on Interpol. It's probably squeaky clean, not one misdemeanor there, because
I'm very sure there is one.
So, Philip, you've consulted extensively for governments around the globe, as you mentioned, as well as major corporations, and are known around the world, actually, as an advocate for cybersecurity. Although people outside that field might not know that much about you, I'm telling all of you that this guy is famous in the field of cybersecurity, okay? Now, there are many who think that cybersecurity is only a topic that's relevant for large organizations, right? We all don't have to worry about it. So Actually, we're here, and many of our listeners here are individuals. Like, why should individuals be concerned about it now, considering that we didn't really worry much about it before?
Yeah. I think that statement about only large organizations were worried, should be worried about it was true many, many years ago.
Mm,
But as we have seen that the whole world is going through a digital transformation. Everything has been computerized, everything is going digital. For the very fact you can see that even in Malaysia here, ever since we went into the pandemic, everybody's gone online, everybody started doing shopping online. So it is a very clear thing that everybody is now using computers. So we have a very famous saying, even before the pandemic, we used to say that security is everyone's responsibility today. I don't know whether the listeners have heard of this term called IoT. IoT stands for Internet of Things. Why we have this term today is because that any device that goes or get connected to the internet, it becomes an IoT device. So as you can see that many of us have carrying so many devices today. I was just reading today an article that was popped up in my Facebook about smart TVs and how dangerous they are. Because today we have televisions that actually connects to the Wi-Fi. I mean, our handphone and everybody, our cars are connected to the Wi-Fi. That's where I stay away from all these connected cars and all that. I've seen a lot of proof of concepts where how they just suddenly the whole car is taken over by the hacker and you can't do anything about it. So it's a lot of things. So because every one of us are using devices that are connected to the internet, it becomes a concern for everybody. We all have to play our part to secure ourselves. Now, not only that, assuming that you work in an organization and then you have your mobile phones, you have your laptops, and you take it back home, you do your work back home, you use your phones back home. Now, when you bring your laptop back to the organization, and if you had been infected with some virus or something at home, and when you bring your laptop, your mobile phone back to the office and gets connected to the office network, then you are actually transmitting to the office, and that's where it spreads throughout everywhere. So that's why they said the a cyber criminal or a hacker just needs one window of opportunity, and if they can find that one opportunity to penetrate, that's where they will attack. So they will try to look for the weakest link. And another popular saying in cybersecurity is humans are the weakest link, because we always tend to give out these kinds of things. We slack in how we protect ourselves. So when we have actually a lot of the cases, if you see, when you find out that people have they have this data stolen, that stolen, and this, when you actually look back and you see, it is because they didn't do the measures that they were supposed to do. you know um, I was just talking to you before we started live that my computer went into an update mode. The Windows was updating. But of course, you have to update your computers. But a lot of people don't even know that they have to update their computers. There was this guy who posted on LinkedIn that he was blaming Microsoft, that, oh, useless Microsoft. You see, now we have been hacked because all this blah 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 and all this. And then people, and he's an IT manager for a company, and people were whacking him back and saying to him, hello, Microsoft came up with an update 6 months ago for that particular vulnerability. That means you didn't do your job. And he's an IT manager. So
mm,
you see, we don't update. Whenever we see our phone comes up with an update, we say, I'll do it later. But sometimes we don't realize that those updates could be critical updates. Like recently, sorry, but I'm not promoting Apple, but I use an Apple phone. And just recently, Apple came out with critical updates, security updates. So the first thing I did was I told all my family members, my friends, I said, okay, you guys all, because I know all of them use Apple. I said, you need to update because this is a security update. If it's just a normal bug fix of an app and all these things, it's fine, you delay it. But security update, you don't delay it.
mm.
So security has become because why? Because we use our phones and our laptops today to do online banking, online shopping. If you're working from home today, how are you ordering from online? Your food, your groceries, and all that. You're using your laptop or you're using your phone.
Mm.
So if these devices are not secured properly, then you will be you will be attacked. You can be attacked and you will be attacked. So that is why today it is everybody's concern. It's no more an organization, because organization's responsibility is only to protect you in the organization.
Right.
But when you come back home, and then you start doing your own personal work, and then you suddenly one day you open your bank account and you realize 10,000 bucks has gone missing from there, and then you
Mm.
wonder how. So these are the things. So it's become a responsibility for all of us to protect, because we are all connected in this interconnected thing we call the internet. So that's
Yeah.
why.
So I'm listening to you, Philip, and I'm thinking of a metaphor right now. It's like if I live in a gated and guarded community, I have the perimeter fencing and I have the guards to, secure the premises. But that doesn't mean when I go home, I shouldn't lock my door, open my windows for anybody to walk in. Or I still have to have my home security feature intact. So, and do my part in protecting my
Exactly.
assets, right? Okay,
Exactly.
great. I think you've given us quite a clear picture there. Now, what specifically should we be concerned about, as in what are the type of threats that we could encounter as we as individuals go about our daily business online?
Okay, there's a lot. The most common one. I'm basically addressing the normal users out there, and typical attacks that we see are happening are things like identity theft, data theft, phishing, and ransomware. So let me just very quickly. So if you look at this one, people are out there to steal your identity so that they can use your identity to basically pretend to be you and get things done online.
Mm.
Or scams. Scams, I will go into more into it later. Scams and phishing. Phishing is where it's a typical, it is spelled with a H, PHI. So it is similar to phishing, the actual phishing, where you actually put a bait there. So they will try to bait you into, and today many people fall for phishing scams because it looks so real. It looks so real. So, but there are ways to detect phishing scams. Okay, there are ways to detect it and all that. Um, but another very popular thing we always tell during our awareness session: if something is too good to be true, don't believe it. Number one,
Like
it's
you
the
have won $1 million and it's in a
ex-
bank in the US, like that, is it?
Exactly. I once received a letter from Spain, a physical letter, with
Wow.
stamp and all that. Postman sent to me the letter telling me I've won the lottery or something like that, And, they went to the extent of actually sending me a physical letter to say
I
I've
think,
won.
Philip, they sent you the letter because they know if you said they send you something online, first of all, you being the cybersecurity expert, it won't go through. Or if they go through immediately, you can spot. So I said, send this guy a
Yeah.
letter, right? He might not.
Yeah, and my wife goes and says, maybe you won. I say, yeah, right. So
So that's
I
funny.
say, it's like, they will try everything, and that's why they're the biggest scams that is, I mean, the biggest attacks that are happening to end users are basically data theft and identity theft. So that's the most prominent ones we see, and that's why we try to minimize our digital footprint as much as possible. There are many, actually, everything, there's ways to do it. There we It's always a difficult thing. Security comes with, like what you said just now. It doesn't mean that you stay in a guarded community, you kind of relax yourself.
Mm.
I know personally people who stays in guarded community who have been robbed before.
Yep.
you know
Yep.
and not once, twice have been robbed. So we cannot, we cannot let our guard down. We must always be very careful. We must always be very aware of where, how, when, what we are doing. The moment we let our guard down, that's when it happens. And we always think that it won't happen, but it will happen. It can happen. And people out there are always, that's why we always say that attackers are always, many steps ahead of us. They are always, you see, that's their full-time job. Don't forget, we are doing this, like, when we, okay, once in a while we go and do e-commerce, online transaction. So, if you're doing it once in a while, you should take all the precautions, because these guys are doing it as a full-time job. They send out a phishing email to they just send out to randomly to everybody, right? 100,000 people they send, and even if they get 10 people out of the 100,000 to scam, it's good business for them. I actually saw online once when I was presenting in a conference. I showed them that, when they were looking at, we were looking at salaries for IT people, security people, and in that security, IT security people, there was the hacker also there. He's one of the list of his salary, how much he makes. Then we all go and say, like, I think we're all in the wrong of work of
Yeah,
life.
why am I doing this? I should go and join that, man.
Because the hackers are making like so much of money, and they just like doing it from their home kind of thing. So we need to protect our data. We need to protect our devices, and we are exposed to identity theft. We are exposed to data theft. We are exposed to scams. We are exposed to phishing attacks and ransomware. Ransomware is basically, if your computer is not protected, if they get hold of it, they can actually plant software there where it will lock your entire laptop. Your entire hard disk is locked. And if you want to open it, you have to pay the ransom. If you don't pay the ransom, then they won't unlock it for you. But of course, many people have asked the same question to me and said that, what if we pay them and they don't unlock it? It can happen. So but these kind of things, they don't really target home users so much. They try to target critical sectors. Yeah. And sadly, if you see the last 1 year, attackers have been targeting the the health industry, which is so sad. They have targeted labs that have been doing research on COVID vaccines. They have targeted, all these hospitals and all that. And these are, so in fact, I was just reading yesterday again, and they said, like, these people have really no more
conscience.
Conscience.
No conscience, no humanity.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's like, why you are just going to kill a patient there, and they lock the entire thing. They lock the entire computer system of all the computers in the hospital, and they tell them, pay up or else you don't get. Now, what will happen? Doctors, nurses, they can't see what medication to give, because everything is computerized today. Right. So you ended up, patients dying because of that and all that. So it's really bad. Ransomware has become a very lucrative business for the hackers, and they've been targeting because they're making good money from it, and they have become very smart. In order not to be traced, they ask you to pay using Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Because cryptocurrency, you can't trace them. So you pay them using Bitcoins and all, and until you pay up, they won't release the whole thing. So again, there are ways to not to pay. That's why one of the things we always tell organizations in our work, we always say the most important thing is backup. It's your backup. If you have regular backups and all that, go ahead, lock my computer. I will just format everything, and I have my backup to restore back. So I still have everything. That's why I always tell people, like, I back up my phone very regularly. My laptop, I have a backup that goes into a cloud. And so tomorrow, if my laptop is stolen, I can, you can erase everything on my laptop also. I have the entire laptop elsewhere. So we must be prepared to prepare for all these kind of things. But again, it depends on how critical your information is that you're storing. That's why they tend to attack more on the critical one as ransomware. But for home users or end users or normal users, like, those people out there, identity theft and data theft, because they can actually use that to scam you, to buy things online and pretend to be you. So we need to watch out for things like identity theft, data theft, scams, and phishing attacks, because phishing is being used a lot for banking. They try to do that, and believe me, they have created websites that replicates the exact banking website. Like if Maybank to you or CIMB clicks or RHB website, they have already created an exact replica of it online.
So how do you tell the difference then if you're going to do an online transaction? I heard about the whole Maybank
Yeah.
like that scam, right? So, and I think they've sorted it now, but how do I tell that this is not the site?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Typically, two things I would say. Number one is for you to type the address out yourself. Okay, to type the address out yourself.
So don't go into Google and search for it.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah. Because like Maybank to you, it's maybank2you.com.my. So just go and type it out yourself. Number one. Now the fake website will always usually have one character difference in it. So people don't see that, because they quickly see Maybank 2, then, okay, and you will see that there's one character will be different, or somewhere will be one character usually, because, you one look, you will see, I'm in the right website, and then you go in, but you don't realize that. And before too long, once you key in your username and password, that's it. They immediately use it to go. By the time you find out that, this and that, but again, yeah. And but then again, there are also security measures once you go into the online banking website, so that's why we will talk about maybe later. We can talk a little bit about how you do multi-factor authentication and all that. But first of all, always look carefully. I always tell people the best way is don't use a link and click on it to go into that. Type it out yourself, type it out yourself, and then you can't go wrong with that usually. Yeah, that's the safest way.
That's great. To any listeners out there who are in the IT industry, here's a disclaimer. Don't think of going into hacking to make a lot of money now, right? Somewhere along the way, that's a person who's doing it with no conscience. Just our little community service message there. So there's so many ways to hack into our systems, right? All these scams and phishing and all that sort of thing. Sometimes the threat comes through platforms like WhatsApp, email, and then social media and so on. How do we even begin to know that something is a threat? I mean, I go and look at my WhatsApp and I'm getting a WhatsApp from Philip Victor. Oh, cybersecurity expert. Now I'll go in there and click on it. Bam, I get into some virus. So how does that work?
Yeah, that's true. Because we have something called spoofing. The word spoofing. Spoofing is where I could actually send you an email right now, and I can be whoever I want to be. Okay. So usually what hackers do is, if they are targeting a particular person or targeting somebody, so they can actually, or they know, like, you see, like, unfortunately, like, I will know certain emails for sure. I will know it's spoofing email because, for example, like, I used to get last time emails that comes from CIMB Bank that says that, we need to, and I know that I don't even have a CIMB account, so I know that's a fake thing already. But what if you have a CIMB account? So that's where you need to. Okay. Before I go into that, how do you, what kind of things can happen to you when you talk about like WhatsApp, email, and all this? Number one is like what we said in the beginning. This now, if something is too good to be true, it is too good to be true. If somebody says you have done this and all that, so then it depends on what they're asking you to do. So we need to be conscious about this kind of things. Like, for example, if you get a phone call or email or SMS asking you for things like personal information, credit card numbers, confidential, sensitive information, that is a big no. And that's why banks keep telling people, we will never ask you for personal information. Banks always say that. banks always say that. Actually, I just want to say, like, I want to talk a little bit about these scams. We have this. I think one of the famous scams that's going on in Malaysia is called the Macau scam.
Mm.
The Macau scam. So this Macau scam is usually where the victim gets a phone call from somebody who's supposedly to be official from a government or a bank and all that, and says, hey, you have some loans unpaid, this one, or you have got some fines, you didn't pay your fine. I actually got a call from a guy. I actually got a phone call from a guy. And of course he chose the wrong person. And I was like, and we in the IT security line, we always love to get phone calls and messages from these people, because we know how to play with these guys, so we will go like on and on and play with these guys a lot. But I can't say the same for other people, because
Mm.
I don't blame them, because people get scared. It's always
Mm.
like, oh, I'm calling from the LHDN, regarding your income tax. We noticed that there's been some over backdated one which has not been paid. And then you get scared because you don't know. I mean, your company does the income tax, pays for you, and then you declare, and then suddenly, and it's happened to us all. I've got, like, after 10 years, income tax sends me a letter and say, oh, you still owe us some 50 ringgit from 10 years ago. You see what I'm saying? So if somebody calls you and says you have something, you tend to believe it because it has happened. In reality, it's happened before. So you don't know whether it's real or not. And then the guy will kind of like tell you, like, if you don't pay it soon, this interest will go up. And then you get scared, and then you say, okay, how do I settle this? And then so the thing that people needs to know is that it's surprising that people are losing 50,000, 100,000 in Macau scams. So remember one thing, whether it's LHDN, banks, or any of these places, they cannot do, they do not do, not they cannot, they do not do it over the phone with you.
Mm.
They do not do
Yeah.
it over the phone. They would either send you an official letter or
Yeah.
official email, and then you can always call up and say, I've received this email, I've received this letter. I want to speak to the officer in charge to verify that, this is this and all that. Or go to the office itself, go to LHDN and find out. Say, I got this letter, I got this email, I want to verify. So you should not ever believe anything that's coming through the phone. So the best way is don't entertain these kind of calls.
Mm.
That's the best way, Or you can get even like there's another famous attack in Malaysia called the Big Pay attack, where you get a call or an SMS, and like it will tell you, like, oh, we are going to send you a one-time password kind of thing, to give us the one, all kinds of things they will use, and then you give up, and then you will say that, or they say that, you won 3,000 bucks or 10,000 bucks, all kinds of things were happening. So there are all kinds of scams, believe it or not. I don't want to go into a lot of details. We have short time, but there are things like we hear things, they call it the romance scams, the paid subscription service scams, phishing scams, and then the job scams. Now it's famous, job scams, because people are looking for a job. You see, attackers are very smart. They look at the situation currently. When COVID first happened and people were doing this and that, and when the vaccines were being, researched and all that, they used that to conduct phishing. They said, we are this one from the hospital, we are this one, this one. So people believe, because it's at that time. It's now job scams. People are telling you, oh, we have jobs available, we have this one, this one. If you're interested, let us know. Then they ask you to pay upfront X amount of dollars, kind of thing,
Mm.
So they try to exploit the situation that people are in.
The
And
vulnerability of people.
yeah, the
That's
vulnerability of
terrible,
people.
isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So all these can come via WhatsApp, email, social. So the best way is that, or even if you hear things like, "Oh, sir, you need to let us know now. We need the answer now." That kind of thing. Would you want? So these
Mm.
kind of things are always flags. That something is wrong. Something is wrong. Where so don't give up personal data. Don't believe anything to pay on the phone. Anybody ask you for any personal, just say no. I will go to the office and settle this with you, and all these things. Don't believe any special offers. you know don't believe any special offers unless you see. So even like somebody calls me, say, hey, like recently Maxis was giving out special offers for 65-inch TV. So I went and researched and said, okay, on Maxis website it is, there's a so people ask me, I say yes, there is an offer going on like that. Now if somebody sends you an SMS and email and saying that you have, there's a special offer and giving you so much, everything looks so beautiful, something is wrong.
Mm.
Or if it could be true, I don't want to say 100% wrong, but you need to verify. So don't give out your information. Don't give out things like your IC number, your
Bank
number.
account number and
Yeah.
any sort of
Yes.
details and all.
Yes. Or even now they are even having scams like you receive a call, somebody telling you that there's a parcel delivery,
Mm.
and they were unable to deliver it to your house,
Mm.
and then they say that they ask you they try to convince you that the package is a gift from a friend or something, and they will use these kind of things, and then they said, okay, you need to this one to pay so much to get the parcel and all these things. So they make it so convincing that you believe, you believe. So and also things like investments that offer huge returns with low risk. It doesn't happen. I would like to have a low risk with high returns. I'm
All
sure
of us.
yeah, exactly. So there's no, that's why I said it's if it's too good to be true, then it is definitely not true. So
Yeah.
these are, so you need to look out for those flags. You need
Mm.
to look out for those flags. But I think that it's okay to read those messages, but you don't have to respond to these messages. So
Mm.
the best way is that anything involving giving up personal information, passwords, details, number. I've got calls like even people asking me that, oh, this person is using, oh, this account is under your friend. Oh, can you give me your friend's number? I said, no, I can't give you my friend's number. It's not my number, it's his
Mm.
number. And I've got calls, people asking me for my wife, to speak to my wife. I told them that if you could get my number and then you asking for my wife, then something is wrong on your side. That
Mm.
means you did not obtain the number from her, because you're calling me, you're calling my
Yeah.
number. If
Correct.
she had given you permission to call her, she would have given you her number, you
Mm.
know. And then when they ask me, can you give me a wife's number? I say, no, it's obvious that my wife didn't give you her number, So things like this, and then verify who's on the other side. It's
Right.
important for us to verify. We tend to accept every
Mm.
calls as it is. I'm calling from this bank, Okay, let me check. Give me your phone number, your extension, or whatever. I will call back and double check whether this is the bank or not. It's okay. Nowadays we have calls that nowadays our phone are all unlimited calls and SMS. So make a
Yeah.
call back. Yeah, make a
Yeah.
call back. There's no harm. At least you know that you are talking to the right person from that bank. If not, anybody I can call tomorrow and pretend to be from any bank I want. It's so
Yeah,
easy
that's
to,
true. That's
yeah.
true. Now, Philip, just a question, like we're talking about doing online transactions, right? How do I ensure that, is there a checklist that we need to observe for doing online transactions, things that we need to look out for to make sure that it's a legitimate transaction?
Okay. Well, I'll give you the most important ones, the key important ones. Number one, update all your devices. That's
Okay.
important. Now, I don't know how many users are savvy in this, but besides your computer and your phones, besides your laptop and your phones at home, actually your router has got also updates. Yeah, believe it or not, that hackers can actually hack your routers. So routers usually have firmware updates. Okay, so if the users who are listening in, they can find out how to do it. Now, usually routers have got a app that comes with it. Okay, you can actually do it from the app itself. Okay. When you open the app, it will tell you there's an update available. Just update it. Okay. So you don't have to be like so savvy to go into the router to find out. But if there's an app, fine. If it doesn't have, find out how you can do it. Okay. But just put that in mind for your home so that you're secured, because routers comes up with regular updates as well, which we tend to forget because we are concerned with the laptop and the phone only, that we forget. So number one is update all your devices. Whenever there's an update available, update it. And that itself gives you 50% of your work of securing yourself already. Okay. Number two is that I believe the oldest way of securing anything is passwords. And try to use difficult to guess passwords. Forget about boyfriend's name, girlfriend's names, wife's name, husband's name, date of birth, dog's names, cat's names, or whatever pets you have. They have done a survey globally. 80% of people use that. Easy to guess, because everybody wants something that is easy to remember. Now, I would say that at least for your any of your applications that involves money, put a really hard to guess password, and put a password that is not the same as anything else. You know, okay, you have a password that, say for you to go into a particular website, just they require you or something, but there's no transaction involved there and all that. That passwords all can be normal, but banking password or your online, let's say the most two famous like Shopee, Lazada and all that, make sure you use strong password that has a combination of uppercase, lowercase, symbols and numbers. Okay. Hard to guess, and minimum keep it at least above 8 characters. 10 and above is good. So
I'm
yeah.
calculating my passwords. How many characters?
So that's number two. Number three is use multi-factor authentication. What I
Okay.
mentioned this now. Multi-factor authentication means that a combination of any of two things. For example, we in security, we talk about what you know, what you have, and what you are. So what
Okay.
you know is like a password and a PIN number, something that you remember, I know my password, my PIN number. What you are, what you have is something that you have physically, like a token, a device that generates password, or something physical. Even your access cards that you use in the office, those are what you have. Okay.
Okay.
And what you are is biometric. So fingerprints, retinas, and voice recognition. This is something that belongs to you personally. So if, like my notebook, for me to log into my laptop, I use fingerprint. So I have a user ID and I use a fingerprint. So I use two. So any combination of those two will give you. I give you another example. When I do shopping on Shopee, I use face recognition.
Oh.
I use face recognition on Shopee when I pay. So I have my passwords that goes in, and then when the payment comes in, it does my facial recognition. So I have this. So if somebody else were to try to use my account, the face recognition will fail. So they cannot.
I wonder if there's when they see your face, say, oh, he's buying, and there's a going on when your face recognition comes up. Okay, so Philip, you mentioned what you know, what you have, what you are. I can identify with that when you're doing, say, online banking for your company, right? Because you have your device and so on. But if I'm doing personal banking, I don't have a device. It's just me and going online. So what is the no?
Yeah, it depends on the bank. Like I used to do banking with HSBC last time. I don't bank with them anymore. But HSBC used to give me a token to generate a password every time, a PIN number on that. So when I log into HSBC's online, I key in my username, password, and when I want to do a transaction, I have to press the button on the token I have. Now, different banks have got different way. Like I think we are all familiar with Maybank and CIMB and all this. Like Maybank, once I key in my username and password, whenever I want to do a transaction inside, I will be either asked for a tag number, transaction
Ah,
authorization code,
okay.
which goes to your mobile. So mobile is something you have.
Ah,
Okay.
okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so mobile is something you have. So if that's now, this is another scam that's happening. People will send you a message saying, oh, I accidentally gave your phone number, typed in your phone number, and my uh, tag went to your phone. Can you send me the tag that you received or not? You know,
And there are actually people who will give that tag.
believe it or not.
Some stranger calls them and says, I accidentally sent to your number. Go and request another tag. I would tell the person, hello, go and
Exactly.
request another tag. I'm not
That,
giving you.
see, that's the thing. That's the thing. The thing is that, see, you and I are aware, but believe it or not, many people out there are not aware. And it's sad to say that there are people out there who have no clue at all about these kind of things that can happen. Yes, we know that the tag only lasts for a certain period of time. And after that, even if you take your time to enter the tag, I mean, I've been in that situation. It's like that's the time when your phone starts hanging, and your tag, you're trying
Oh,
to
it
say,
dies. Oh, it dies.
yeah, exactly. And then, by the time you go in there and say, oh, your tag has expired, please request for a new tag, Yeah, so but many people don't realize it. So that's where you get something. So my Google email also uses two-factor authentication. See, there are many platforms which already provide you with multi-factor authentication. You need to use it. So today, even if you have my username and password, say like now you manage to get hold and you try to log in from your home into my email, Google will detect that where you're logging in from is not where I used to log in from.
Yeah.
And it will send a code to me, or will send a request to me to my phone telling me that, please enter, yeah, this is your code for entering your two-factor authentication. So you don't get that message. So when I
Yeah.
receive, and I have received it for something that I was not doing. So I know somebody was trying to breach into my email. Yeah. So ideally is to have multi-factor authentication where it involves anything sensitive and involves money. So
what is the what you are? What you know, you have your information, password, and I'll log in. And then what you have is maybe the tag or your
yeah,
device. What about what you are?
like I told you this now on Shopee, I use facial recognition.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So 2 out of the 3 lah. You need to have
Yes,
at least 2 out of the 3.
if you have two of the same type, it's not called multi-factor authentication. If
Okay.
I have a password and a PIN number, it's both of what you know, and it's not considered multi-factor. Multi-factor is when you have a combination of any of the what you are, what you know, and what you what you are, what you know, and what you have. So it must be a combination of any two of those. Two of the same kind is not considered as multi-factor authentication.
Okay, that's very useful. I think that's something that not many people out there outside of the cybersecurity world would know that. And I think that's really very valuable. And I'm going to really look out for that. So what you've been saying so far is, Philip, that we need to take responsibility for protecting our devices ourselves, right? And don't just rely on our organizations that provide us with the laptops and phones to do that alone. So update our devices regularly, even our routers. We don't know how to do that, go figure how to do that. And then when all these jokers call us from all over that, we have loans here and we haven't paid that, a fine here and all that, and you have to go and pay right now and into this number and all that, just don't listen to them. Forget it. No one's going to come to your house and arrest you because you didn't pay your tax. Just go next day to the tax department and check with them. And I have found from experience, Philip, I'll either get an email from my bank, or I will get a letter. Usually they will send you a letter. Even income tax department will send you a letter to say that, you have got areas that you haven't paid and all that. So don't go and post laju telling you that you need to pay to have this package sent the second time. They never do that. If they couldn't deliver you, go to their premises to collect. If you don't go, they will send it back to the sender. So I think these are all things we all need to get pretty savvy about.
Actually, there's one more thing I want to say. It's the usage of public Wi-Fi.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, because everybody likes to go and sit down and do their work in Starbucks and all these nice coffee places and all
free
this
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, these are all public Wi-Fi's, you know. So public Wi-Fi's, you can go, you can do your work there, not a problem. But refrain from doing any e-commerce and banking when you're in this public Wi-Fi. I can actually sit down in Starbucks today and hack into anybody's computer I want. It's so easy. I have a
I'll be
software
looking out for you wherever, and I'm in Starbucks. Okay.
uh, you know, many people, I mean, they don't realize it. Public Wi-Fi is a big no-no. You can use the Wi-Fi, not a problem at all, but don't use it for this kind of purposes. You know,
Can I, if I'm using my own data, right? Then I can do the transaction online outside, you know, of the security.
Correct.
But when you're doing a transaction, somebody taught me this long ago. So even when I go to hotel rooms and all that, if I have to do a transfer money, I'll use my own data, put off the Wi-Fi and use my own data.
Correct. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. So use that if you really need to do it
Do a
there.
transaction.
Yeah. So keep the public Wi-Fi's into just for surfing or, you know, reading your mails or whatever, but don't go into all this online banking, e-commerce, you know, because people like to do it. You know, they like to go to this cozy place. Okay, now it's Shopee time, you know, it's Lazada time. So let's go do all this. So that's the time they sit down there and go like, oh, okay, I shall buy this. Oh, let me go and transfer into my Maybank account, my CIMB account. So people, they don't realize that it's really, really not safe in this kind of area. So keep away from public Wi-Fi's when you want to do any of this kind of transaction.
Okay.
One more thing, if they're using credit cards, try to ask your banks to actually try to not use to ask them to send you bills through email is better, you know, because we receive a lot of credit card statements, physical ones. Where did it end up actually? Eventually, it end up in the tong sampah. So, and there's valuable information inside there. So I've stopped receiving any paper-based this thing, you know. So I just use, I get my Astro bill, my Maxis bill, all my bills, you know, all my bills I get through online, and I keep it nicely with me for references. And today you have a lot. I mean, like even the Tenaga National, you can go and view all your bills through their app.
Yeah.
You know, IS Lango, you can view their bills through their app. So you want to keep, because when we collect all these papers, we eventually throw them away, you know. And when we throw them away, there's a word we use in IT security, it's called dumpster divers. Okay. Yeah, it's a very popular word in IT security. Actually, it's called dumpster diving. Dumpster diving are people who actually go and look through dumpsters to collect personal information. So you'd be surprised there are a lot. And they normally do it for large organizations, people who don't shred information in their companies. Some companies are so cheap that they don't even buy a paper shredder in their companies, you know, and they just throw everything there, and then you have these dumpster divers waiting out there. Okay, so try to go paperless as much as possible, because that minimizes. You know, all these things actually helps you to be, you know, protected. There's a lot of things you can do. You also try to use more credit card than debit card if possible, because credit card, if you use credit card, you can actually go into dispute if something happens. Whereas if it's debit card, your money has already been withdrawn from your account. So these are things that you can look at. So these are some of the things that just to protect yourself as an end user, you know, in case of anything that can happen and all that. So these are some of the things I would say are critical, which you can relate to your daily work.
Wow, this has been amazing, Flip. I've learned so much today now, and I'm thinking like, okay, what do I need to go and start doing now, right? Yeah, I've taken your advice about going electronic on my credit card statement, so that's good. I'm updating my stuff regularly. That router thing, I don't know how to do yet, so I have to figure that out. Okay, I've got Tenaga and all that on my phone app, so I can get my bills and all that there. I've never given in to those phishing scams, and I scold them nicely. And once I've even sort of impersonated I shouldn't say that on Facebook Live. I even told them that, you know, this is Inspector so-and-so from Balai Police, and then they quickly hung up. So that one was taught to me by my late husband, who was very good at things like that. So the final question I want to ask you, Philip, So if your security has been compromised, if you realize suddenly that someone has hacked in and then someone has duplicated your whatever accounts and all that, what is the first thing you should do?
Okay. So it depends. For individuals, let's start with individual. If you think that your banking details have been compromised, credit card been compromised, the first thing you want to do is you call your bank and terminate all this off, put everything on freeze everything. That's the first thing you want to do, because you see, in security we always say this. You want the first thing you want to do is protect yourself from anything. Okay, supposingly you have been compromised. If you have been compromised, you want to contain the attack. So you want to minimize the extent of the attack that has happened. So if somebody, say for example, your wallet went missing, so you call the banks and say, look, my credit cards and all that there, please block everything immediately, so that whoever finds it, they're not, because if you know, somebody can just go and use it. No,
Waive
there are
it, yeah.
yeah, wave, pay wave
I hate this wave thing. I never waive my credit card. No, I think
so you
it's
can
just,
waive up to $250, right? So without being questioned. So so what you want to do is to minimize it. So the first thing you do the moment you know that you're being compromised is inform the relevant authorities that if it's bank, you want to freeze all of this immediately. And also, if you think your computer has been compromised at home or in the office, and the first thing you want to do is disconnect from the internet. That's the first thing you do. And your internet connection first, okay?
okay.
Because as long as you are connected, you are actually exposing to more and more, because you have already been compromised. So the first thing you want, in fact, this is what we tell even in workplace. If anybody's computer, the moment you know that something has happened or somebody detected it, your first thing you do is disconnect it from the network, because that minimizes and you contain the whole thing inside there. So if your computer you feel has been compromised, or suddenly you see your handphone running by itself, the apps are opening up here and there, suddenly this is opening, there's something is wrong, quickly switch off your entire phone. Okay, switch off your entire phone, and then you want to go and get somebody to assist you to see what has happened. So that's the thing. And then there are websites. There are websites where you can actually key in your email address to see whether your email has been compromised or not.
Okay.
And more than likely it has been compromised, because we have seen a lot, even Malaysian credit card numbers have been sold online. It's not your fault or my fault. It is the fault of the people who are storing it, because our information is everywhere. I mean, and if the third party don't look after our information, so make it a habit to change your password very regularly. And the ideal is 3 months. Some people find it a chore for doing 3 months. Okay, 6 months once at least, So if you know you have been compromised, the first thing you do, like, the moment I hear that, oh, Maybank has been hit or this has been, the first thing I do is go and change my banking password. I say, I don't want any money missing from
Okay,
there.
guilty as charged. I better go and change all my banking passwords.
Yeah.
Don't know how long I've had them.
Yeah, exactly. So if you do, then of course there are other things that if it's more.
The trouble is, Philip, when you change, you forget, no? Because like there's so many different places, different passwords. I'll be using the wrong one there, and that says, password not valid. Then I have to go and get a new password and remember a new one. So what to do like that?
There are applications. The listeners who are listening, you can go and check it out. Password managers. There are password managers that helps you on this. So just go and check out password managers to help you to manage all these passwords. And if your extent of your thing has been very bad in terms of compromise, you lost money or this and all that, besides calling your banks, you can also make a report to the authorities. In Malaysia, there are two main authorities you can make a report to. One is Cybersecurity Malaysia. Cybersecurity Malaysia has a service called Cyber 999. Okay, so you can just Google it out. They'll give you the phone numbers and all that. Now, Cybersecurity Malaysia is not so much of an authority body, but they can help you to
advisory lah.
Yeah, advisory. Plus, they can also help you to take your case into the relevant authorities, or you can go into these authorities like MCMC. So MCMC is also a statutory body that is in charge of all these things, and you can make a report to the relevant people. And of course, if your banking thing has been compromised, you want to deal with the
Inform
banks.
the bank.
Yeah, because the purpose of going into reporting it to the authorities is also for them to actually try to launch an investigation into what has happened and all that. So these are some of the things that you can do as an individual. But the first thing you want to do is to minimize the extent of the damage that's happened and to minimize anything bad. I think all of us, I think if given a choice, we rather our computer gets compromised than us losing our money in the bank, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we try to minimize, you know, the what you want is to make sure. So but I think it's not that easy for someone to actually get into your bank and siphon out money. Yeah, it's not that easy.
Unless you've been very careless lah.
Yes, exactly. It takes a person to be extremely careless to actually get their money, because I think you and I do online banking. We know, you know, there's the SMS transaction authorization code. Then when you do e-commerce, they ask you for the MS codes. You know, all these things which goes to your phone. You know, so how on earth would somebody be able to do a transaction if they don't have this thing? So so make sure you put every possible things that you can do. Like if you, like I was mentioning, is that if you're doing Shopee, use if your phone has the facial recognition capability, use the facial recognition.
I must go and try that today.
Yeah, so that's why
fun.
I buy a lot of stuff from Shopee. So all my transactions are done, and when the payment comes in, it does a facial ID
and they're
thing.
saying, yippee, it's him again.
I know this guy. He has bought a lot of things. He's back. He's our number one customer.
Right.
Yeah.
Philip,
So put all these things in place. You'll be okay.
Thank you so much, Philip, for being with me today. I mean, we got carried away and went a little longer than we usually do, because I think this is such a useful session. It's so exciting,
exactly.
you know, to find out all the things. For me, I'm quite happy because a lot of the things you've been saying, I've been following, but that password thing, gotta go and do something about that. But it's been great having you with us this Friday. You've been listening to Philip Victor speaking to me, Sheila Singham, on the Sheila Exchange. I hope it's been as enlightening and useful for you as it has been for me. In this age, this era that we're living in, where we do everything online, from, you know, transactions, shopping, talking, having Zoom parties, whatever. We're living our lives on this online platform. We need to take the precautions. Don't just depend on other people to keep you secure. Secure your own house, all right, which is your platforms.
One last thing, if you don't mind saying, when you go to a website, I don't know what I mentioned, is always look for the padlock sign on top. Okay, there's the padlock sign. That padlock sign shows that you are in a secure website. That's why today we have, last time we used to use HTTP. Today we have HTTPS. Okay. If you go to banking and any e-commerce site, it is a must.
HTTPS.
If it's not, yes, it is a must. In fact, a lot of websites today, even non-e-commerce and non-banking, are already using HTTPS to show that they're using us. The S is an extra layer. It's a secure website. That means it already has its digital certificates. It's gone through the security thing and all that. That's why it has the padlock there. So you don't see the padlock, go away. Something is wrong.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that final note of advice, Philip. That's really so good to know. I'm going to have my eyes peeled out for that HTTPS sign on every website that I go in now. Thank you so much for joining us, for your time this Friday. And it's been great having you with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was an enjoyable session.
Yeah, we had lots of fun. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Philip.
Bye.
Bye.